if I'm in a room and there's other people and no one else is acknowledging what I see or hear, it most likely isn't there. My reality, it could be warped at any given time. I was hearing people talking to me, like whispering while I was in the shower.
Hello, I'm Andrew Hales. Welcome to another edition of Chatting With. I'm with Brennan. He has schizophrenia. Thanks for being here, man.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, man. How long you had that? Or I guess when was it diagnosed?
I got diagnosed when I was 14. So that was about 8 years ago.
Okay. What were the symptoms?
Well, it started off with paranoia for me. It was very irrational paranoia. It wasn't to the delusional stage yet, but it was pretty extreme paranoia. At first, people were like, it's just anxiety, but then it got to people are after me, people are reading my thoughts, things like that. And then it turned into delusions, which is, I don't know if you know what delusions are, but they're a extreme, I would describe it as a extreme irrational belief in something that is obviously not true. And there's usually no evidence to back this up whatsoever.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it kind of like A Beautiful Mind? Have you seen that film?
I have seen A Beautiful Mind, yes. A Beautiful Mind, and from my experience, portrayed schizophrenia very accurately.
Okay.
However, it did not display John Nash's life accurately, like him specifically. But the way it portrayed schizophrenia, yes, it was.
Okay.
That was very accurate.
So you have then were you doing any drugs or anything that triggered the onset? Okay.
No.
Have you ever done any drugs?
No. I just vape nicotine and that's it.
Cool. So what did they say at the doctor? Did they give you any medicine?
Yes. So I was 14 at the time, which is really rare for people that age to be diagnosed with schizophrenia. So for men, it usually is, I believe, 25 and up. And for women, it is normally 30 and up. I believe that's the numbers. But it is possible to be younger and develop it. So I started showing symptoms at 13, and I got to see a psychiatrist because a therapist referred me to a psychiatrist. And first she wanted to deal with my depression and my anxiety. So she put me on antidepressants and mood stabilizers.
Okay.
And then eventually she was having difficulty diagnosing me because she was like, well, you're showing a lot of signs of schizophrenia, but you're really young. I want a second opinion. So she referred me to a neuropsychologist, and that took about a year to get into because there's just so many people, like they couldn't take me in until, like I said, like a year.
Really?
And finally I went there. Yeah. And finally I went there, and they did a whole evaluation on me. I'm talking IQ tests. They just did like one-on-one. They did cognitive testing, things like that. And I didn't know this, but after I did the IQ test and him talking to me for 15 minutes about what I experienced and just seeing how I am, he left and I finished up some testing. Well, during that time that he left, he was telling my parents that I'm going to diagnose him with paranoid schizophrenia. He's showing, like, this is obviously paranoid schizophrenia. And he goes, I would know because I have a brother who's paranoid schizophrenic. And not to mention he's a neuropsychologist, so he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, when you heard the news, were you like, holy shit? Or
Well, people have this misconception that schizophrenics don't realize they're schizophrenic. And that is common, but not all schizophrenics are that way. And around that time, I was trying to come to terms with I might just be mentally ill. So I wasn't surprised that I got the diagnosis, but I still wasn't sure if it was true or not. That makes sense.
right.
Because
You
it's a warped
doubted.
reality. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so you're on medication now. You have been for 8 years since then?
Yes, yes. I'm now on antipsychotics.
Okay. And have you ever gone off your medication just to see if you could do it?
Yes. So that is also a very unfortunate reality for people with schizophrenia is a lot of the time they'll go off their medication because they might think, oh, well, I don't need it anymore. I'm better. Or maybe they have a delusion that it's harmful to them, like it's poison or it's a tracker or something like that. And I
Right.
have gone off them and almost every single time, very quickly, I have relapsed into back to back episodes. And,
Damn.
but recently, um, and I wouldn't recommend this for anyone who's schizophrenic. And it's a little hypocritical of me to say, but I do not take my medications as much as I used to. And I only take them when I'm going through a period of back to back episodes, which I don't recommend that. But, and the reason why is because I've had it for so long that thank God I can easily distinguish if something's a hallucination or not because I've had it for so long. Um,
How can you
and what
distinguish?
one of the ways I do it is if I'm in a room and there's other people and no one else is acknowledging what I see or hear, it most likely isn't there. You know, especially if
God,
it's something weird. So I just ignore it.
that is so trippy.
Yeah, people, you know, people think
What?
like, oh, like I don't know how you could do that. It's like, well, when you live with it for so long, eventually you kind of just get used to it.
Like, what's an example? Like an imaginary friend or something that talks to you?
Yeah, that could be an example. Yeah, I have dealt with seeing people and talking to people in the past, so we're not actually there. It's as real as any other person. Like it's just like talking to a person, but they're not actually there.
Jesus. Have you kind of, has any of them been like telling you to do things that are wrong or
Right.
evil things, you know?
So I've never had anything that I can remember that tells me to hurt other people, but I have heard voices tell me to hurt me. I have had that, but I don't act upon that because that's another thing is people are like, oh, you know, you hallucinate voices telling you to kill people. Are you going to kill people? And it's like, well, that's like a actual person going up to you saying, hey, kill this person. You're like, no, I'm not going to kill this person. Like, regardless if it's real or not, I'm not going to act upon it because like hurting myself and others is bad, you know? So
Right. Um, when they tell you to hurt yourself, what's,
Mhm.
do you kind of think the same thing? Like, no, I'm not gonna, I'm feel fine or whatever. Or are you kind of like, oh, I would kind of like to do that? Or,
Not so much anymore. So back when I was, my teenage years were the worst for me. So I got diagnosed at 14, showed symptoms at 13. And until the age of 18, it was awful. Like I tried to commit suicide more than I can count on my hands, and
okay.
all have failed. I don't know how. Either I decided not to do it, or something went wrong, um, something like that.
What, wow. Well, I'm glad you're still here.
Yeah, I haven't tried to commit suicide in 4 years. I think it
uh,
doesn't even cross my mind anymore.
and were those times that you were off your medication?
No. Sometimes I was off. Sometimes I was on.
Damn. What's the name of the medication? It was, you said antidepressants and a mood
Yeah,
stabilizer?
mood stabilizers. Yeah. So
Like Seroquel, I think, is one. No.
I don't take Seroquel. When it comes to antidepressants and mood stabilizers, I take Wellbutrin and Prozac.
Okay. Cool.
And then for antipsychotics, I take lamotrigine. I think it's also called Lamictal. And what's the other one? It's called Priprazole, but I can't remember what the the easier term for it is. I can't remember, but those are the antipsychotics I take.
Are there any bad side effects that you've noticed?
Oh yeah.
Like what?
So
I mean, I guess like, did you gain weight with the,
yes.
Really?
So I was a twig my whole life, and once I got put on lamotrigine and Priprazole, I gained like 30 pounds in 3 months and just went up from there.
Okay.
Or like 40 pounds in 3 months. And at one point, I think the heaviest I was when I was 17. I was 226 pounds and I'm like 5
What?
foot. Yeah. And I'm like 5 foot, like 9, 5'10", something like that.
I gotta get a picture of that. Or, I mean, unless you don't want to show it, but that's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big change.
Yeah, it is. And then, like I said, I've been off my pills for a while, antipsychotics. So now I haven't been this skinny since like I was 15, 14,
Okay, man. When was the worst time it ever got? The worst episode you had?
Ooh. I get asked that a lot, and I don't know. I don't know what would be like the worst time, because when I look back at my teenage years, that's when I would have a lot of back-to-back episodes, and it's kind of like a blur. Like I don't remember very much of my teenage years. It's just like blurred with the mist of insanity. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like I try to remember, but it's hard.
Yeah.
I think there was one time that I'm not really a wandering kind of person like some schizophrenics are, but one time I did wander off. It was early in the morning, and I worked at the company that my dad's friend worked at, and he'd pick me up from home and take me to work with him. Well, he went out there to pick me up at my house, and I wasn't there. And he told my parents, and they were looking for me. Well, we live downtown, and I was just walking around downtown, completely just paranoid and out of it, not in reality. And eventually, my mom found me, and I was very hesitant and untrustworthy of her, but she's convinced me to go back in the house, and then eventually, it kind of died off a little bit, but that might be the worst in a sense of it was unknown where I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay, so you talk about this paranoia. What were you paranoid of?
Well, the most common type of schizophrenia is paranoid schizophrenia, and
Right.
so a lot of things that paranoid schizophrenics go through are very similar. So if the government is spying on you or is out to get you, maybe a certain person, or people are reading your thoughts or using your thoughts, or just they're called persecutory, what's the word? Persecutory delusions? How do you pronounce that? Like people are
precursor?
No, it's when people are persecuting you.
Okay, yeah, persecute. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
persecuting delusions. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, yeah, and that's the most common form of delusion.
Yeah,
and just people are against you. You're alone. The whole world's out to get you. Basically, that's
okay.
That's usually when I say paranoid, what I mean.
And you don't have those thoughts anymore right now?
Well, I'm technically, I think I'm just used to the paranoia. it's definitely like low, but it's almost like it's just steady, a low, steady, just it's kind of there. But I've learned to be calm about it and not overreact and keep telling myself that it's just mental illness. It's just mental illness, and this is something I have to do basically all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're constantly like kind of accepting it.
Yeah. I have to
Uh,
basically block any thought that I have that involves paranoia and just refuse to think about it, you know? And that's hard to do. It's really hard to do. And, but it took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get to this point, I guess, to be able to do that.
yeah. Um, so what do you do for work? What do you do for fun?
Just YouTube. That's what I do for my work. I can't
All
really hold
right.
a job. Stress is a big trigger for me, and jobs are very stressful. And as much as I want to work because I'm tired of being at home all day. I'm tired of, yeah, it's great you can relax, but like I want something to do. And, I recommend this for any schizophrenic is if you're having issues, keep yourself occupied, do something with your hands, do a hobby, make something, things like that. Well, when I'm at home, like it's kind of hard to do that because you just want to sit around and watch TV or you just want to, just having a job is good because it actually gets you into doing something, getting in the mindset of doing something, and you get money for it. But I would love to have a job, but I've found that I'm very unreliable, and it's
Yeah.
caused an issue with every job I've ever had. The longest I've ever held a job is 4 or 5 months,
Okay.
and I mean, at one point I even held a job for like 2 days, and I had to stop. So
Same.
yeah,
I've I've had a lot of different little
what to
jobs. Yeah, especially when I was your age.
sure.
And luckily I found YouTube. Um, how often do you upload?
Not
Are you
very
pretty?
often.
Well, you got to get going, man.
I know, I know. I
But
don't like.
but I
I'll
mean, I
go.
can't. I'm one to talk though. I'm terrible about consistency as well. So
Well, that's the issue. Is I have I have probably the best job for someone in my situation because I'm educating people on my illness. I can't work because of my illness, but I need to make money. I still need to do something. So this is the card I was dealt. This is the hand I was dealt. So I want to make the best out of it, right? So I thought, well, I'll make it my career.
you with your
And I
parents?
always right now I do, yeah.
Okay. What do they do for work?
My dad owns a business as a freight broker,
Hmm.
and my mom is currently not working.
All right. Well, cool. And what do you do for fun? Like
I play
video
lots.
games?
Yeah, I play video games. I'm a huge nerd. I love Dungeons and Dragons, Magic the Gathering. Uh,
Never.
I
I've
love
never
it.
played that, but I'm aware of it.
Yeah,
Dungeons and Dragons, is that card game or a computer game?
Dungeons and Dragons is a tabletop role play game, so it's dice and paper.
Cool.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone LARPing? Like, are you that
No,
level of nerd?
no, no. Um,
I don't
you
know.
know, LARPing, I could see how it could be cool, but like, I feel like I said, I'm a huge D&D guy, but like, I don't know. I don't know if I could take it seriously. You know what I mean? And I don't know.
Yeah.
No bash on people that LARP, but just,
Have you heard of the film Unicorn City?
you know,
It's an indie film. It's pretty good. It's kind of all about that world, D&D and LARPing and whatnot. But
actually, I think I might have seen that on Netflix years ago,
yeah, I think it was on
but I didn't
Netflix for
watch
like
it.
a year or something. Yeah. What's the biggest way schizophrenia has negatively affected your life?
Well, that's hard to choose. I mean, you could go with the how it affects like me personally, which would be, my reality is warped. It could be warped at any given time, So I never know truly what is real and what isn't real. People, things, beliefs, things you thought you just always knew that turned out that actually wasn't.
Wait,
It's
so
like,
are you having like some thoughts right now that maybe I'm not real?
I mean, anything is possible, but I don't worry about it.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah, go
It's
on.
kind of, yeah, it's just kind of like at this point, I just live life every second and just, this is what's going on.
All right, yeah.
And then you could also look at it from the aspect of not personally, but socially. What's the worst part about being schizophrenic? And that's the stigma. I mean, people,
Yeah,
family,
like,
friends,
oh,
strangers,
serial
it doesn't
killer.
matter. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, bro, like, no. But, it's funny because I don't. I don't take it seriously. So, like there was
Good.
this one time that I had friends over. That's back when I was in high school, and I said that we were expecting one more. It's a surprise, and okay. And then so I pretend like I heard a knock at my door. And I said, "Oh, he's here." And they're like, "What?" And I opened the door, and there's obviously no one there. And I was like, "Have y'all met?" I can't remember what name I said. So and so, and they were like, "You should just see their faces. Like they were just." And I was just like, I'm just messing with y'all. Like, no, I'm just kidding.
Oh gosh.
But people don't know how to handle that kind of thing. So
Yeah, I
it's
guess
just,
that, I mean, that's kind of, you got to be careful with that though, obviously, boy cried wolfy type stuff.
right. Well, I mean, I usually do it with people that know me well. And
Yeah.
they also know when I'm having issues. I look different. Yeah.
How far of a drive are you from Nashville?
Oh, let's see. So, let's
Or
see.
Memphis?
Jeez, I don't know. Probably,
I'm pretty sure Arkansas is right next to Tennessee.
yeah, I would say I'm going to estimate 5, 6 hours maybe.
Shit. We could maybe do this in person, but I don't know. We could do a follow-up episode in person.
Yeah, that's cool too, man. I'm down
Yeah.
for anything.
Yeah. I just got to push out content, man.
I get it. Like
Yeah.
I do not post as much as I should. I'll go months without posting. Like that's how
Yeah.
bad it is. But but of course I can't grow properly if
Yeah.
I'm not constantly posting. But I have no motivation, dude. It's so bad. Like I just don't. And I guess another issue is
It's a constant battle.
I want to do things. Yeah, I want to do things other than talking about schizophrenia. That's getting old. Like
Yeah, then do that. Yeah. I mean, I've changed
my
my format like 4 or 5 times over the last 12
right.
years.
It's like my whole personality is schizophrenic guy, and it's like
Right.
I'm just now trying to come to terms that my personality isn't schizophrenic. It's just me. And so
Yeah.
when my when that's all I'm known for, it's just that's the schizophrenic guy. That's the guy that records himself wigging out on camera. And it's just like that's not how I want to be known by. But I guess you can't pick and choose what you're known for.
One of the easiest ways to like kind of generalize and miscellaneous your channel, and give yourself creative freedom is just a vlog. And that's also like the heart of growing on YouTube is like when you're talking to your audience. A lot of my biggest videos are, that I took 10 minutes to do and me just talking to the camera. And then vice versa. I'll work on something real hard and whatnot and put a lot of thought and effort into it. And because that connection isn't quite there, which a lot of your audience is there for, where you're talking to them, it won't get a lot of views. But
All right.
there's a balance.
I
Have
feel
you
like
ever
my
live
channel.
streamed?
Yes, I live stream a lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
On
I,
Twitch and
I
stuff?
live stream more than I record videos, but on YouTube.
Oh. Like, yeah, playing games and stuff?
No, just talking to Q&As, just like this, but to chat.
All right.
This
How often do you live stream?
Like, not as often as I should. Maybe, geez, it depends. I go through phases. I'll go through a phase where I'll live stream a few times a week for maybe 2 weeks, and then I'll go like 2 months without doing anything. That's usually how it works for me.
Yeah.
But
Have you ever tried cold plunges?
I don't even know what that is.
Really? Wow. It feels like they joke like the hardest thing about cold plunges is not telling everyone about it. But it's just immersing your body in like freezing water, like with ice, and just staying there for 5 minutes, and helps with depression, motivation,
Really?
testosterone, burning fat. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Gives
Okay.
you a boost in mood. Yeah.
Okay.
I
I've never heard
wouldn't be
that.
surprised if it helps with schizophrenia, but
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I'm definitely not a doctor. Uh, what are some natural things that help mitigate the symptoms that you do?
natural thing to me, like what I use to cope, or
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
gotcha. Okay. Well, like I said, my teenage years was the worst. So what I would do to drown out voices, because I hallucinated auditory hallucinations all the time, I would just wear headphones and just listen to music. That
Okay.
kind of nowadays I just distract myself with things, games. I'll try to hang out with someone, a friend or something. Um, just keep myself occupied.
do you fall asleep with music in your ears?
Yeah, no, I just go to
But
sleep.
what are the voices usually saying when they come up?
So it's interesting to me how much my schizophrenia symptoms have changed over the years. So back in my teenage years, they'd tell me things like telling you to kill myself, or say things like people are out to get you, or these people know what you're thinking, or things like that. Now I don't hallucinate as often anymore, and it's not as severe as it used to be. Um, like, I think the last time I had hallucinations that I was aware of was maybe a few weeks ago, 4 weeks ago,
Okay. Wait, and what was that?
and they were just noises.
Mm,
Maybe people just talking, but you can't understand them. One or two
okay.
people, maybe three. Sometimes just sounds, just weird sounds. But
When you were 13 and the symptoms were coming up, was it like oh, I'm hearing stuff or what? And who was like the first person that you knew that kind of noticed it happening and were like, we need to take you to the doctor? Or were you like, I need to go to the doctor?
well, I cannot remember the first time I ever hallucinated, but my mom and dad brought something up to me like a year ago, talking about, because someone asked them about what did they notice, and they said that I talked to them about how I was hearing people talking to me, like whispering while I was in the shower, and I think that was the first thing I ever experienced, like auditory hallucinations. And the first person I told was my mother. I just kind of mentioned that these things were going on, and she was like, "We are going to take you to a doctor and see if he can refer you to a therapist." So that's what happened. And then I saw the therapist once, and he said, "And I'm going to refer you to a psychiatrist." And
Yeah.
so I saw the psychiatrist, and after 2 visits with her, she said, "I want to need a second opinion on this." And so she referred me to a neuropsychologist. Like,
Yeah.
and took me a year to get into, and that's when I got diagnosed.
Uh, and wait, you're saying you're off the medication now?
So I take my mood stabilizers.
Okay.
I am not very active at all on my antipsychotics. I don't want to say that I don't take them at all, but I, I haven't taken them in, geez, yeah, I haven't actively taken them consistently in 2 years.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You skateboard?
Yeah. I fall
Do
my
you,
ass.
do you exercise or anything?
No.
Really?
No, I'm not a very active person.
Hmm. Um, I know that helps me in like all my neuroticisms is exercise.
Well, sure. Yeah. I mean, it helps a
Yeah,
lot of people. I mean, when you get that blood flowing and you actually, work your body and do these things, it releases a lot of chemicals that make you just overall better.
yeah,
And it's something that I want to start doing. I just don't know how or what to do. I don't know if I should just go on like walks or go on
yeah,
jogs. I don't know. I never been
yeah.
a very, and I've never liked sports. I've never liked anything like that. Uh, but
I
I
think you should start with walks. Walks are
yeah.
great.
I mean that's easy and it's cheap and free. So
Yeah, and you can listen to music.
right, right.
That's like the whole. That's like the biggest reason I'll walk or run or skate. Is you can just escape into the song, and
Right.
while you're moving around. But hmm. Have you met anyone else with schizophrenia that you can kind of bond over certain stuff with?
In person, no, but on online, yes. Like my followers, I'm very advocate on talking to my followers. I
Cool.
don't have like a Patreon or whatever. It's literally in my descriptions. I'm like, this is my Discord. This is my Instagram. Come talk to me if you want to. I don't care. You're not going to bother me. And
Okay.
people will message me and be like, you know, whatever they're messaging me about, hi, how you do, whatever, and I'll respond like, well, you responded. It's like, well, yeah, that's why I have my Discord and my Instagram in the description of my videos and streams. Otherwise, I wouldn't put them there.
Um, how so what, yeah, you mentioned you don't want to really do anything more about you don't want to be the schizophrenia guy anymore. What other kind of content have you thought about doing?
Well, yes. So before I had Skits Went Through Life, I was like everyone and their grandma. I had a gaming channel. But like, bro, that's not going to go anywhere. Everyone does gaming. Everyone. Like that's not going to get you anywhere. And then
I feel gaming's like an extra credit type thing. I think you have to have
yeah,
something else that
yes, if
you
you're
know,
original.
right.
And but like I don't know what else I would do on YouTube. Like I don't want to do gaming because like that's just not going to go anywhere. But I don't want to disregard schizophrenia from my channel. Like that's the main premises of my channel. But I don't want that to be just what I talk about.
Right.
Because it's called Skits Went Through Life. So like it's about the life of a schizophrenic. You know.
Yeah, I mean, have you thought about just vlogging your day,
Yeah, I've thought about that, but like my days aren't interesting, so like, who cares? Like I just stay home all day.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you kind of just need to make it interesting. Like you can tell stories about something that happened. Like you telling me that story about goofing off with your friends and pranking them,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. People eat that up.
Sure, sure.
Uh, but what did it affect your school?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was
It's a shit
awful.
show.
It was
Yeah.
awful.
Did they have to take
Yeah.
you out of school or anything, or what happened? I don't know.
I,
Did you?
eventually they God, I'll never forget this. This is embarrassing. So oh god. Okay, so we had a school psychologist. There was the counselor's office, and in front was a school psychologist. And I thought that was fancy. I was like, wow, this school has a psychologist. That's cool. Whatever. And
Yeah, yeah.
I spent pretty much majority of my day, every day, in there with her doing work and not actually going to the classes. And not to mention that I missed an ungodly amount of days, like staying home because I just was not functional mentally.
Damn.
So she wanted to set up a meeting with school board and my parents, and they said, so we think there's two good options that we'd like you to choose. And of course, my dad said, I'm gonna let you choose because it's your schooling, you know. But she said, one, we can put you in special ed. And
Okay.
I'm like, okay, what's the second option? And she said, two, you do online school. I'm like, okay, I take an online school. Like, I barely have any, like, what's the word? People already didn't like me because I was schizophrenic. And
Okay.
people already made fun of me for that. And this is no bash of people with special ed, but like, I really feel that would really impact my image as well, you know, that makes sense. You know, especially
Yeah.
if it's not, it's nothing of,
Yeah.
you know, that sort. Like, I like to think that I don't belong in a special ed class, you know.
Well, so in a normal classroom setting, you couldn't just sit and, or it was more because of the bullying?
No, it actually was the fact that I was constantly hallucinating and I was delusional and fearful just being around people.
Damn.
And that's why I usually didn't go to school. And because I was very isolated, people naturally didn't like me because like that's weird, you know. And of course,
Huh.
I didn't care at that point, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't even listen to the teacher. I would just stay there with my head down on my desk. That's all I did, and I would just be listening to everything around me, listening to everything in my head and everything. And so then I did online school from my 10th, half a 10th grade year up to senior year, like graduation. So I graduated online.
Nice.
Yeah.
Any college?
No,
Yeah.
but I would, you know, I've actually been considering college. I never thought I
All
would,
right.
but I've actually considered something.
Yeah, I mean, it totally depends on what your goals are. Sometimes I mean, it could be a total waste if you're like, I just want to go to college. You
Oh,
know?
that's dumb.
What do
I think
you what would you want to major in? Yeah.
I want to do something in the science field, like biology or something like that.
Nice. Well, thanks so much for doing this, man.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, check out Brendan's channel, link in the description.
I really
Um,
appreciate it.
let us know what you think about all this. Any thoughts you have on schizophrenia, etc. And I will see you next week. Thank you.